Okay. All right. Hello, guys. First off, I want to say I excited that one of my shorts actually got over 200 views. I'm super excited about that. Um, Not a lot of likes and comments. I did have one awesome comment. I'm glad that guy said that. Kind of gave me some context that I wasn't honestly expecting. Um, But yeah, super excited about that. Considering that my normal videos get my full length videos like this one or two views, and the viewership drops off almost immediately. I'm not surprised by that. Honestly, I kind of feel like with this type of channel and what I'm doing is kind of not everyone's niche, and until I find that niche group of people, it's going to be difficult to find people to actually watch my videos. Um, but as far as my shorts are going pretty good, and that one, my most recent short, did really well. If you've noticed, I am actually in the Book of Mormon right now. I wanted to talk about my Mesoamerican theory, idea, my model. So as I mentioned in my short, I am one of the people who thinks that Quetzalcoatl was Jesus Christ. I'm not like hard on like I'm not like hard, like clipped onto that fully. I would be fine with it if it's not. I just think it's coincidental that Jesus, in the Book of Mormon visits the Americas and Quetzalcoatl visits the Americas around the same time period. The Nephites and the Lamanites definitely knew about Jesus Christ before he came, so I'm not even going to be upset if they say Quetzalcoatl was around a lot longer, because so was Jesus. Um, Not that I'm going to ignore evidence. If anyone comes up with like hard evidence to prove that Quetzalcoatl wasn't Jesus Christ, then I'll accept it. Like I'm not like just blindly accepting things and moving on. However, I do want to go through the scriptures here today and kind of talk about why I think Mesoamerica is the model we should be looking at. Um, so the Heartland model and the Hemisphere model are both they're good. The Hemisphere model is a little too big, I think. I don't think the Book of Mormon takes place on a land on the entire continent, both continents. It's just not. I just don't think it's feasible. Um, it took my brother-in-law just moved to Missouri, and it took him I 16 hours, I think, to get from here to Missouri. And that's driving. So like driving like 80 miles an hour. People are not moving 80 miles an hour. Um, so and then the Heartland model, I'm going to get into why I do not think it's the Heartland model. And the first reason and why I think it is the Mesoamerican model. The first reason is cities. Um, So here we have Helaman 7, verse 22, and it says, "For this cause woe shall come into you, except you shall repent." So repent. For if you will not repent, behold, this great city, and also those great cities which are round about, which are in the land of our possession, shall be taken away. This great city, and also those great cities. Helaman 7 is about 30 years before Christ comes. So this is like 20 BC, 2030 BC, somewhere in there. And they have this great city and great cities. So there's a lot of big cities. There's no evidence of giant cities in the Heartlands. And I'm not saying like I need big cities, but we know that when the Nephites were fighting, they were fighting with probably millions of soldiers in their battles at this point. Um, there are no examples of any cities in the Heartlands model that could sustain millions of people, unless they're all nomadic or something. Which I guess you could say early Lamanites were, but at this point, Lamanites are also inhabiting cities. It's anyway. Third Nephi 8. This talks about the cities that are destroyed. I'm not going to read any scriptures out of this, but if you want to read in here, read Third Nephi 8 and 9. 9 talks about the cities too. But here you have cities that Hamlet took fire, Moroni became was put under a mountain, destruction. Here, 14, this is important. And a great many notable cities were sunk, and many were burned, and many were shaken, till the buildings thereof had fallen to the earth, and the inhabitants thereof were slain, and the places were left desolate. Wooden buildings don't. I mean, they can burn and they can fall to the earth, but they don't usually sink. I'm not saying they can't. So, like, I'm not saying like, this proves it. But my point here is, great and notable cities probably have some stone in them somewhere. Mesoamerica has giant cities that have stone in them all over the place. Helaman 3, and this one actually has 2 verses. So, verse 7, verse 9, and there being little timber upon the face of the land, nevertheless the people who went forth became exceedingly expert in the working of cement. Therefore they did build houses of cement, in the which they did dwell. I believe this is specifically talking about the land northward, so I'll get into that. I'm going to bring up a map here. It's not an accurate map at all, so don't don't be excited if I don't bring up an accurate map. Verse 9, and the people who were in the land northward did dwell in tents and in houses of cement, and they did suffer whatsoever tree should spring up on the face of the land that it should grow up. So they have cement houses. They're also living in tents. There's a lot of ancient history in like Mexico and northern Mexico and southern Arizona of concrete cities that are on the smaller side. So like maybe people are living in tents and in cement. I'm not saying it's correlation and therefore it's what it is. This is correlation. I'm not saying it's causation, but there's a lot of it. Okay, and then I think this is the last one. I think, yeah, no, that's 3rd Nephi 8. We already been there. We already been there. We already went there. So my point with this is that the lands of Nephi, the Nephites, the Lamanites, they had big cities. They were probably made of stone, and we know for a fact that some of them were made of cement. There is no evidence of any kind of cities of that kind of nature in the Heartland model. There's just there's not anything like that. And I know they're going to say, well, the mounds are not cities. You would see remains of something. There would be a culture. There would be something left behind. They would probably say like, well, the Nephites were wiped out. Well, yeah, but the Lamanites were still there. Like, the people did not just disappear. The Lamanites just assimilated them, pretty much. They destroyed anyone who wouldn't follow. And many people escaped. Anyway, so that's my first point. There's large cities, and the Mesoamerica people have large cities. Let's go over here to Mosiah. This is Mosiah 1, 2 through 4. I'm not going to read this, but I do want to, it's clear in here that they have a language and they can read. Reading and writing are connected. You can't really have, and I actually learned this from college. I'm going into education. I'm going to be an elementary school teacher. And I did have to study the science of reading. And I'm just going to say, like, reading and writing aren't necessarily like the same thing, but in order to know how to read, you have to know what letters are. And if you know what letters are and you can't write them down, there's a problem. It's probably like a physical handicap of some kind. The thing is there's a thing called encoding and decoding. When you're reading, you're decoding things, and when you're writing, you're encoding. And they go hand in hand. They're together. They yeah, and your mind uses like the orthographic mapping is what's going on there. My point though is they can read. If they can read, there's writing to be read. And that's what this is they have a language. We do say it'd been taught in the language of the Egyptians down here in verse 4. so they could read these engravings. Um, so they definitely have a language, and this is in Mosiah. So this is 130 BC. Nephi wrote in his plates back in 600 BC. So we know that at least the leaders are writing, um, and Nephi's even engraving stuff onto plates. Um, I should have brought up that scripture, but I actually didn't for some reason. It's in I think it's First Nephi. Right after they get off the boat, he mentions that he got plates and started writing everything down. It was probably later in his life, so maybe not like right when they got off the boat, but that's when he mentions it. Because I don't know if anyone's aware of this, but like all of First Nephi is not journals that Nephi kept during that time, but it's his recollection of those times. All right, so here's what I want to say. Sorry, I had to go do something real quick there, so if I cut off, I'm sorry. um, here's my point, though, is oh, sorry, I think we should have been reading in Mormon 9. So in Mormon 9, 32 and 34, he says he's written it, in verse 32, he says they've written it in Reformed Egyptian, and in 33, he says they could have written in Hebrew. Um, um, and then 34 is interesting because it talks about how that no one knows their language, and because no one knows their language, whoever does end up translating it is going to have something to help them, and that's in reference to Joseph using the stones. Although Joseph never calls attention to that, so for those of you who think Joseph Smith just made up the Book of Mormon, it's highly unusual for you to put something cool like that in your own book and then not mention it ever. Anyway, so my point here is, according to Copilot, Mesoamerica is the only place in the entire hemisphere that has a structured writing system during the time period of the Book of Mormon. That means the Heartlands is out just because we have no evidence of a writing system, and we do have evidence of a writing system in Mesoamerica. Again, this is correlation. I'm not saying, maybe we find something in the Heartlands that turns out to be evidence of an amazing writing system. But the fact is that they're engraving on plates. It's highly likely that they engraved writings, and there's just tons of it down in Mesoamerica. We have tons. There's big cities. There's writing, and Mesoamerica is, as far as we know, the only place that had writing from 600 BC to 400 AD, according to Copilot. I could be wrong there. I'm totally open to I'm aware that there has been writing found in other places. I think there would have to be a pretty structured writing system. After all, Mormon is saying that they're writing in two different languages, or they have the capability of writing in two different languages. So I would say that their writing system is highly structured. They're very good at it. So the last thing I'm going to talk about is the River Sidon. I've put in the River Sidon to AI, and this is the part of the video where I want to just put out a disclaimer and say, I am not saying that this is accurate. I am not saying that I have not put in the research. I have not put in the time. This is me goofing off with AI. So if you're expecting to get like, boom, knowledge dropped upon you, then I take it with a grain of salt. This is Copilot. Copilot makes mistakes sometimes, especially when we get to this map. Copilot does not know how to map things. Anyway, so the River Sidon is mentioned quite frequently throughout the Book of Mormon, so much so that I didn't even pull up scriptures because it's mentioned almost all the time. It's mentioned all through Alma. I think it's mentioned in Mosiah. I know Mormon, I think Mormon mentions it. Most of the mentions are in Alma. Alma's the one who talks about it the most. So I've got some clues about the River Sidon. So according to Copilot, Sidon flows northward. All right, so point number one, Sidon flows northward. Again, sorry, something happened. If I cut off and come back in here, that's my fault. I keep pausing the recording. So Sidon flows northward, and it's citing Alma 22:27. It says the land of Nephi is in the south, and the river Sidon runs past Zarahemla towards the north. So it's saying that if Sidon flows northward. Number two, Alma 2:15. Zarahemla is on the west side of Sidon. It says the Nephites gather on the west bank of Sidon near Zarahemla. Number three, Gideon is on the east side, so across the river. Alma 6:7. Alma travels from Zarahemla to Gideon by crossing Sidon. The river is large enough for bodies to be carried away. This is really important. Alma 3:3. Bodies are cast into the river and carried down its course. So this river is large enough that you can put bodies in it and they'll float away. Number 5. The river runs between highlands and lowlands, and this is Alma 43:22. Armies descend from a hill country toward the river. So it's using all of these clues, and it says that there are 2 rivers in Mesoamerica. It says only 2 rivers in the Americas match all in the Americas. So this isn't the Mesoamerica. This is in the Americas. There's only 2 rivers that match all of these textual requirements. Number 1 is the Grilava River. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. It flows northward, has highlands to the south. It has broad lowlands to the north, and it has major ancient cities on both sides. So it's got Chiapo de Corzo and the Itzba region. So I would say I think in my map that I came up with, I'll bring that up now since we're talking about it. I think it's trying to say that like right here is Zarahemla. This is This is Chiapa de Corzo. If I'm pronouncing that wrong, correct me, please, because I know I'm not pronouncing it correctly. And then it's saying Gideon somewhere over here. I couldn't get it to find any actual ruins, so take that with a grain of salt. Anyway, so here's the whole map. You guys can look at that if you want. The blue is the land northward. The green is the middle, Zarahemla, the land of Zarahemla, and the brown is the land of Nephi. Anyway, and then it's also got. So this is, I believe, this is the Grivala River. Griyalva. I don't know. I know that J is pronouncing a Y. That's all I know. The other is the Uzmakchita River. I do not have that one mapped, but it is another option. It also flows northward, also runs between mountains and lowlands, and it has major cities on both sides. And this is Palenque, which is right here. That is Palenque. So this would be, in this one model, Zarahemla would be kind of up here maybe. Or, I'm not sure. I always kind of thought when I was first starting this model, I always kind of thought, and this is purely because of Star Wars, but I kind of always wanted I think it's in this area. I know there's a big valley next to it. I always wanted El Mirador to be Zarahemla, and that's only because in A New Hope, Yavin 4, when the X-Wings are taking off, that is El Mirador. That's where they film that. That's where they have the picture, and then the X-Wings take off. The backdrop they're using for that is El Mirador, and I just thought it would be so awesome if, by happenstance, Zarahemla just happens to be the city that X-Wings are taking off from. I think if God had a sense of humor, that would be true. But I'm not saying it has to be. Anyway, so my 3 main points at this video is that the reason I subscribe to the Mesoamerican model is pretty simple. Mesoamerica is the only place that we know about currently that has large cities that, as of 2024, with the LiDAR scans, could have hosted that many people that are described in the Book of Mormon, especially at the end when there's just armies and armies of people. And I did want to bring up, speaking of the LIDAR, they found fortifications. And if you read Alma chapter 50, somebody made fortifications, and it's super strange that Joseph Smith mentions this, and then nobody finds evidence of it until 2024. uh, so there's that. My point is, they had large cities. They probably had stone cities. We know they had concrete at least, and there's just no evidence of concrete in Canada or in the Heartlands model, but there is in the Mesoamerican model. The second thing is writing. There's not a lot of evidence of writing in the Heartlands model. I know there is some, but it's just not enough for me, especially when Mesoamerica has long been, recognized for its writing. They definitely had structured writing in Mesoamerica. And lastly, there's only 2 rivers on the entire continent that match the description of all the descriptions in Alma, and that's those 2 rivers. So take that with a grain of salt. You don't have to subscribe to the Mesoamerican model. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has not come out with an official location for the Book of Mormon. They want you to rely on faith. They want you to have faith-driven experiences. So this is something that's fun to talk about. It is not something that you should be spending tons of time, and wasting your life away. You should be focused on the spiritual aspects of the scriptures. And I'm not saying like, oh, there's no evidence, so don't look into that. There's tons of evidence. I'm just saying, don't let the evidence be everything you're looking for, because at the end of the day, I could be wrong. And if I've staked my testimony on Mesoamerica, that's going to be sad. So don't stake your testimony on a model. It's fun to speculate. I know there's a lot of Heartlanders and Hemispherists, and there was that new guy that the Quick Show had on that had a pretty interesting model, talking about how Teotihuacan I definitely pronounced that wrong, could have been the city that all of the Nephites gather to when the Gadian robbers are going crazy. But yeah, do your own research. Definitely don't use AI. I'm setting a bad example there. And the reason I say that is because, yes, it brought up some really good points. But when I went to like the mapping part, if I show you the map again, a lot of these points don't match up with anything at all. Like it just picked a random dot and was like, here, put it there. A few things line up, like happen to line up. Here's the land of many waters. And if you zoom in, oh, look, there's many waters and rivers. And, so when Helaman mentions that they went north to build these cement cities, you'll notice that it has cement cities here on the Yucatan Peninsula. I personally think the cement cities are over here, and where they have adobe and stuff. Anyway, for sure, don't stake your testimony on any of this. This is just a fun project I did, and I just wanted to explain why I hold to the Mesoamerican model currently. As we do more research into Mesoamerica, I think it'll become more and more clear. But on the flip side, I also expect that we're going to have some red herrings. And I just want to say that, like, we don't know who these people were exactly. So while it's fun to say that it was Mesoamerica, like I'm saying here, like El Mirador, what if that was Zarahemla? Well, we're calling it El Mirador, not Zarahemla. And there's no plaque outside El Mirador that says welcome to El Mirador or welcome to Zarahemla. We're not going to find evidence for the lands of Nephi in the way that we expect. It's going to be something that we realize over time, and it's probably definitely going to be something that we realize during the millennium or after Christ has come. I highly doubt any concrete evidence showing this is where the Book of Mormon happened will come out. I've made a video about that, but to summarize real quick, if we found evidence of the Book of Mormon that was uncontestable, there would be no need for faith because we would scientifically know that the Book of Mormon is true. And that kind of defies the point of the gospel. Um, so if you are expecting concrete evidence to come out anytime soon, just remember faith is an important aspect of the gospel, and knowing where the Book of Mormon takes place is likely going to ruin that aspect of the gospel. So keep having faith, keep focusing on faith. I made a video about faith. Go watch that. And I have seen the Mormon Stories lawsuit. So I am going to make a disclaimer. I am not a representative of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I am just a member. I would say an average member. I hope this helps, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.